because there was a Spanish or a South American drink, and Coca-Cola came to us and they said, would you like to handle this brand, but we don't have any money? Well, we have a little bit, but we don't have very much. We said, yeah, we'll have it whatever. Yeah. And the thing that was quite interesting is that the brand manager that gave us this was leaving. So he approved whatever we showed him. So we did this campaign that I don't think at the time the Coca-Cola company would have believed possible in terms of a direction. In fact, I know they wouldn't because I got a phone call after it ran. This was the ad we did for them.
Tastes like nothing. Ascot's nothing. Tastes like Fresca.
Fresca, the great citrus soft drink.
And because we had a model and we had a set, we thought, why not do a second ad?
Tastes like Fresca.
Conclusive proof that nothing tastes like Fresca. Fresca, the great citrus soft drink.
So we didn't have a very big budget for that. And I got this phone call from Atlanta, which is the headquarters of Coca-Cola, and the guy said, hey, you the schmuck that handles my advertising for Fresca? So I said, possibly. He said, yeah, well, what the hell do you think you're doing, man? I'm paying you money to tell people that my drink tastes like nothing. Are you crazy? No. Anyway, this campaign ran, and we did it all with a really low budget. We actually did
Stop
a series of ads.
Think about nothing. Like what Willie Shakespeare has much to do with that. Nothing. Like what you say to your mum when she says, what you doing with those girly mates? Nothing. Like what Bob Dylan remembers about the 60s? Nothing. Like what Frank Bruno did to Mike Tyson? Nothing. Like what Sharon Stone wears for money? Nothing. So, what's all this got to do with a great citrus soft drink called Fresca? Simple, ain't it? Nothing. That's because nothing tastes like Fresca.
You can tell that it's dated because when he says, like, what does Sharon Stone... Did you hear it? Yeah. Well, you wouldn't want to see Sharon Stone without her clothes on now, I would wager. And the last ad we did in the series is actually the cheapest ad in the history of advertising. This aired on national television.
Oi! What you think you're looking at? Looks like nothing, right? Well, you're right. It is nothing. And what does nothing remind you of? Simple, ain't it? A great citrus soft drink called Fresca, right? That's cause nothing tastes like Fresca.
Thank you. But you know, in those early days of having an agency, I said you have to take every opportunity you can. And a few years later, we had a dream brand that came into the agency, and we did another ad, which didn't have much of a picture and cost very little. And it got gold at the one show, and this was it. Thank you. And you'll find if you're a young entrepreneurial agency and you get a brand that is as great as a brand like Nike, you should say your prayers of thanks every night because it defined our agency for 7 years. And we had a client that although we were in South Africa and Nike was handled at Wyden and Kennedy in Portland, Oregon, he allowed us to do all of the work for South Africa. And that work included work for the Paralympics, where we had lines like, "It's okay to stare, it's hard not to when you're looking at a world record holder. It's okay to feel sorry for him, he missed gold by 100th of a second. Feel awkward around him? You're probably playing him in the semi-final." And we did wheelchair parking bays, where we just, when the Paralympics went to, the team went to shopping centres, we doctored the. And this ad, proud sponsors of the SA Wheelchair Marathon Team, Paralympics 2000. Now, we didn't have much budget, and this is the point I want to make to you. One of the defining qualities of a great agency, particularly in its early years, is its willingness to do a great deal of work even when the client hasn't asked for it. If the client says, "I want a poster for the Paralympics," which is essentially what we were told, we persuaded them to execute a number of elements so that we could get maximum impact and they could get maximum PR. And we were actually fortunate enough to be given the chance to do the first ever Nike ad to run on the continent of Africa. And it's a huge responsibility, and we had none of their great stars from overseas, so we had to think of an African theme. And if you have to think of Nike in Africa, what do you think of? What sport more than anything else defines Africa? It's running, isn't it? So we did this ad. We had Nike for 7 years, and in that time, they let us do work that won 16 Lions at Cannes, including 12 golds. And then the day arrived when I got a phone call from the client to say they'd got a new marketing director and he wanted all the work to be done out of Amsterdam for Nike. But we were entitled to go and repitch for the business. So we walked into the room and he said, "Are you ready to set up?" And we handed him a letter. And we said, "Would you mind reading this aloud?" And he read the letter, and the letter was our resignation. I've probably cried 3 times in my life in advertising, and that day was one of them. So one of the things you need to know about advertising is that it can be tough because you can lose clients when you don't deserve to. And it happens a lot. And the one thing we've got to try and do as an industry is make sure that we do ads here rather than have ads foisted upon us from overseas. And, you know, if you say, "But do we really need to? Can't we just run an ad from overseas? It saves the client money." I'll point to a campaign that our Cape Town office did recently for a Unilever brand that is this.
Ooh, just one small cap is enough. Ooh, or more liquid. Just one small cap is enough.
Now, I don't think they would have come up with that idea in Europe. I might be wrong, but I don't think they would have done. And you know, those slappers, they produced 1 million of them, and 1 million product samples were distributed across South Africa, and that product won Product of the Year. So we as an industry need to fight hard to defend our turf, that we should be able to be making international ads that for international brands locally, because we can and because our industry is good at it.